Welcome to Night Shadows. I'm Stewart Best, where the paranormal is normal, where that which you thought you knew, you didn't, and where the future can be known if you know exactly where to look. Well, hello everybody, Stewart Best here, and tonight we're going to have a great show. We have L.A Marzullii with us, who is an author, lecturer, and explorer. Predominantly, it appears in the paranormal, the ancient past, what most people would consider the bizarre, I suppose, because of the mindset most Americans have today. Hi, L.A., how you doing?
I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on, guys.
Oh, no problem. And we also have Larry Taylor with us. Hi, Larry. How are you doing?
Hey, Stewart. Hi, L.A.
Hey, Larry. Good to hear your voice, my friend.
Well, where do you want to start with this thing? You've been working. Why don't we start on this Watcher series? For the people that don't know what this was a series that you got involved with. And could you just elaborate a little bit on the Watcher series, just to get the ball rolling a little bit here?
Well, absolutely. The way it started, which was, this goes back years and years. The History Channel had me on Ancient Aliens, Season 1, Season 2. I was heavily edited, to the point where they wanted me on Season 3, and I just told them, I'm not doing this. So in the interim of all this, there was another show that I was down on, and I was there with about 20 other people. They were trying to find a host or a group of hosts for the show. And I walk in, I'm the oldest guy in the room. The producers are in their 30s. There's a couple of guys from UFO hunters that were there. There are street magicians, a couple of actresses, a few channelers. No one had written anything. There's no authors, no real researchers per se. And I'm sitting there going like, what am I doing here? I mean, it was a joke. And this is the way they put these shows together. It's a casting call. You know, and they go out and it's all scripted. Everything is scripted, and they try to find chemistry between the actors. And sometimes they do. Sometimes there's some really cool shows out there. I mean, you know, Finding Bigfoot. We kind of joke about it around here. It's not Finding Bigfoot. It's been going on, 4 years? They never find anything. They never will. But, you know, I mean, it is out there, but they'll never find it. Trust me. But I left that interview completely disgusted. I mean, completely disgusted in the whole deal. And so I got on the phone and I said, look, this is stupid. Why don't we just make our own show? I called Richard Shaw. And Richard and I had met through, actually, you know, George Norian Coast to Coast. He heard me on Coast to Coast, and he contacted me and wanted to do lunch. And so we did lunch. I got a free lunch out of it, hey. And, you know, a couple of things happened, and he invited me down to what he had then was a studio, a production studio, really cool place. And he shot me for Toricos, which he eventually used, by the way. In the trailer, and then we actually got funding to do the show. We recut all that. But so Richard and I have been talking, and we were doing lunch, and we would call each other and the whole deal. So I leave the parking lot, and I'm like screaming into the phone, "This is crazy! We've got to do our own show. This is stupid. We can do it." So Richard goes, "How much money do we have?" And I go, "Well, we've really got nothing." So I went online, and the woman actually gave us $5,000, and that's how we started the show, with $5,000. That's all the money we had. And gracious, you know, Dr. Roger Lear was really gracious enough to lend us some footage of extraction. Chuck Zukowski lent us some footage. I mean, it was incredible what came to us. Unfortunately, the woman who lent us the money demanded the money back, so we had to raise the money to pay her back, and we did. That's how Watchers started. And, you know, when Rick did it, we had no idea what the show was going to look like. He certainly had no idea what the show was going to look like. And so we printed 100 DVDs, and I put them up on my blog. They sold within 24 hours. So we went back And these are the days when we would drive our cars into Hollywood and pick up the DVDs, boxes of them. So I think the second we printed another 100, and they went in 24 hours. Then we printed like, well, why do we do 500? So we'll never sell them, you know. So we did 500, and they sold like in a week or something. And we realized we were onto something. And at that point, I said, well, this is stupid. It's a half a day for me to go into Hollywood because of traffic and stuff. So we started getting delivered out here. And we immediately started working on Watchers 2. And the show has really progressed and evolved. We are now up to Watchers 10. One of the things we do, Watchers is sort of the de facto film series for the supernatural. In some ways it is. Well, we cover everything from the Shroud of Turin to Black-Eyed Kids to UFOs to Torah codes to, Nephilim architecture, or what I call Nephilim architecture, megalithic structures like in Sacsayhuaman, Peru, Ollanta and Tambo, to elongated skulls and everything else in between. And so Watchers 10 is coming out. It'll be out in about 2 weeks, maybe sooner. We're really excited about it. There's a new book that accompanies it called Nephilim Hybrids. They overlap, but there's a lot of information in the book, which isn't in the DVD, and vice versa. So we're really excited about this. It's groundbreaking stuff. Already the naysayers are all over it. Bad-mouthing me on Facebook. Oh, my God. It's like, go out in the field yourself. Play your place. Get out of your mom's basement and actually go do something. Get out of your ivory tower and go to some of these places and prove us wrong. Get your own hair from the Caracas Museum in Peru and do your own DNA testing and prove us wrong. All we're doing, this is all hard science, which we show in Watchers 10. It is also in the book Nephilim Hybrid. It's all hard science. It's a scientific method. We have some hair, we send it to a lab. We'd like to see if you can extract DNA. It's ancient DNA, that's all we tell them. It's from a mummy. That's all we tell them. We don't show them what it is, where it comes from, nothing. That's all we do. And so it's a blind study. These people have no idea what they're working on. They know it comes from a mummy. It could be anywhere. It could be any mummy from anywhere on the planet. And they look at it, and they give us the mitochondrial DNA if they're able to extract it, the nuclear DNA, which has been extremely elusive because we don't have dry samples, and they tell us where the haplogroups are, where these people originated from. And all that will be revealed in Watchers 10, in the new book, Nephilim Hybrid.
Wow. So, in the ancient aliens, why don't they want the truth? Did they say why they were editing out everything that was pretty factual, or was this more anti-biblical, more anti the spiritual part of it?
Well, I was invited last year to contact in the desert this year, but they didn't extend the invitation. So in other words, even though they invited me to come to this year, they never followed up with the invitation. And I would have been the only person there with a contrary opinion, because everybody there pretty much together believes that these are ancient. Okay, so I apologize for that, but that's the news.
You're breaking up very badly. Hello? Can you hear him, Larry?
No, I think we lost him.
Well, I wonder what I should do at this point. It's interesting how you lose people when they're talking about things nobody wants to hear about, or the authorities don't want you to be broadcasting, I guess.
Yeah, if you've got a phone number you could call him on, you might call him and see if he just wants to be on the phone. Was he on Skype?
No, I don't think so.
Oh, okay.
He had, the number was 310. Well, I won't give it out because that would be wrong. Okay. He's dropped off. Maybe he'll come back in again.
I find it very interesting. Yeah, I find it interesting, Stewart, what you were talking with him about not being invited again, or they never followed through to get him back on the History Channel series, because I know that's happened to more than just him. There's a number of people, and that they so much edit what you say in your interviews that they pretty much, actually, when you're finished, it seems like what you said is not even what they're presenting.
Well, yeah, yeah. Hi, L.A., you back?
Yeah, I'm here, guys. Sorry.
Okay. I don't know what happened. Just all of a sudden it started to break up.
I disconnected myself accidentally.
Well, what we're looking at, what we were talking about, is it's always seems so odd that the editing is always so heavy in favor. I guess one could sum it all up and say the Antichrist stance.
Sure, absolutely.
And you found that. Yeah, I've kind of watched some of those ancient alien things, and they're definitely anti-biblical. In fact, they try very hard, I think, to destroy the biblical record. What's your take on that?
Well, I would say unequivocally yes. I mean, I would, like I was saying before I cut myself off, and I apologize to your audience and to you guys, but basically, I was invited for this one, but they never followed up on the invitation. I would have been the only author who had a contrary point of view, and that would be this, that these are not extraterrestrials, these are interdimensional beings. And by the way, Jacques Vallée and J. Allen Hynek also believed that they were not from, Zeta Reticuli, they were in fact interdimensional. So that being stated, I would have presented my case in a non-biblical way. I just would have, and I've gone to MUFON meetings and laid it out that way. And people just sit there because I'm not being overtly religious. I had George Norrie a few years back on Coast to Coast. He was back. He goes, I don't understand. You're not religious at all. And I said, thanks, George, because I don't want to be religious. I mean, I'll talk about Jesus all day long. I get that. But I don't want to be religious because that's going to do is turn people off. Look, something's coming. The coming great deception, I've labeled it. The fallen cherub, Satan, has been working on this thing for thousands of years. Paul tells us the mystery of iniquity is working. And you know what? He's right. And it was working 2,000 years ago. It was working 2,000 years before that. It's been working. Yes. And it's been set up for a time, the times that we are living in, which are unprecedented, tumultuous. I've never seen anything like it. And just look what's going on the planet, for crying out loud. I mean, Watchers 9 on my book were entitled Days of Chaos. I mean, people, that's just fear-mongering. Let me ask you something. If that's fear-mongering, right now on the planet, how many police sirens and ambulance sirens are going off right now? How many? How many sirens? And guess what? Why are the police sirens going off in the first place? Because the heart of man is deceitfully wicked. That's the bottom line. The heart of man is deceitfully wicked. I'm not deceitfully wicked. No, I know you're not, maybe. Okay? Nor am I, hopefully. But it lies within us. And when it comes to shove, out it comes, man. Out it comes. And only by the grace of God go I, period.
Yeah. I think the humanity as a whole just simply does not want to admit they're a fallen race and they're under indictment. It's very offensive to most people.
It is. It's very offensive. Well, I'm a good man. How dare you say that? I mean, or the other one is, well, I'm glad that works for you. I guess you need a crutch. Oh, yeah, baby. I need 2 crutches, okay? Are you kidding me? There is a Redeemer, Jesus, God's own Son, blessed Lamb of God, Messiah, Holy One. Hallelujah. And people think they know him. The close on Watchers 9 was controversial. It got everybody all offended. And all I said was this, that if you think you know him, Yeshua, Jesus, if you think you know him, but you don't know him, then you don't know him. That's all I said. Oh, it's impossible. Everybody gets all up in arms over this thing. Come on, guys. If you think you know Jesus, but you don't know him, then you don't know him. What do you mean by that, Larry? Well, I mean this. You have a personal relationship with Jesus. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, then you don't have a personal relationship with Jesus, and you're not indwelt by the Spirit of the living God, so you're clueless. So all you can do is say you don't know who he is, if you're honest. There you go.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, of course, there is that Antichrist spirit rising up so rapidly now all over the world, just as the Lord said it would be, So I suppose any show that you did where you were presenting anything other than the, how do we say, the established line, you're in trouble.
Yeah, well, that's, the party line is the party line, and that's why. What's amazing to me, guys, is Richard and I get blasted from both sides of the aisle. Certain aspects of Christianity, certain segments of Christianity, blast away because of what we're doing. And then, of course, the other side of the aisle, the neo-Darwinists, the New Agers, they blast away. So we get it from both sides. Isn't that? We've got to be doing something right because we're catching flack like we've never caught it before.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. If you're in the front trenches and you're teaching the truth about things, the Lord made it crystal clear. You're going to be hated, you're going to be reviled, you're going to be mocked, and eventually probably terminated if they would have their way,
Yeah, sure.
Okay. You mentioned the black-eyed children. You want to get into that a little bit?
Well, I mean, wherever you guys want to go. I mean, I'll go there if you want to. Sure, that's a good.
Yeah, I think that's interesting.
By the way, the Black Eyed Kids show on our weekly TV program with Rick and I put together on ppsreport.com. ppsreport.com. Our YouTube channel is growing exponentially. We're just about to reach 18,000 subscribers. We started this year with around 2,000 subscribers. We're now just about 18,000. We're really excited about that. Lots and lots of people are checking out our YouTube channel. We're also on Roku and Vimeo. So it's everywhere. ppsreport.com, ppsreport.com. Black Eyed Children, who did a show on PPS Report, and it's had more hits than any other show. I think it's over 52,000 hits on YouTube.
Wow.
And there's a reason for it. Because we're exposing what the enemy is doing. We're exposing what we believe are hybrid entities. And in that program, I interviewed a pastor who had an encounter with one of the black-eyed kids. And, of course, in Watchers 5, we sat down with Leah, who had an encounter with one of the black-eyed kids. And then, of course, there's David Weatherly, who wrote a book, Black-Eyed Children, Black-Eyed Kids, and he's sort of the expert on it. And all that was revealed in the half-hour show, ppsreport.com. You can just go check it, or the YouTube channel, L.A Marzullii on YouTube, and it's up there. But the black-eyed kids, we believe, are hybrid entities. They're not human. Anyone who encounters these things is terrified. Everybody across the board. Now, the pastor who saw one about a month and a half, 2 months ago, I'll tell you the story real quick. He was doing a prayer walk around his building because of an incident that happened 24 hours earlier, which is another bizarre story. But I won't
that's fine.
Away from the storyline and get back to it. So he's doing a prayer walk around his building, and they come around the corner, and there's this kid perched on a wall. The wall is 8 foot 6 inches high, and he's perched on the wall. And the pastor has got an elder with him, and the elder goes, "This kid's face just doesn't look right." And the kid leaps off the wall, lands in front of the pastor. The kid's got black eyes, completely black eyes, a hybrid. And he goes running up the steps. They follow. They get up to the top of the steps, and I've been there. There's nowhere to go. Kid's gone, just completely vanished. And so that's what we're up against. If it was one of these things, yeah. I mean, these are all the people that we interviewed in Watchers. David Weatherly wrote the book on it, told us some incredible stories. But Leah had an encounter with one. And you can watch her body language in Watchers 5 when I show her David Weatherly's book cover, how she reacts to it, and how she just kind of recoils and pulls away. So I'll give you an idea of what's really going on with that.
So these are obviously demonic entities that are just manifesting in that particular way.
We think they're modern day hybrid entities. That's what we think. That's a hypothesis.
Oh, so they are real literal, but have supernatural abilities.
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, I've never encountered one. I don't want to encounter one. But the fact that this thing vanished where he shouldn't have been able to vanish is very telling, in my opinion.
Would that have any relationship? You're familiar with the X-Files, I'm sure.
Sure.
They had a series called Black Oil.
Yeah,
where their eyes went black. You'd see this stuff come down over their eyes, and then they were totally, I don't know if you could call them zombies or what they were, but it was almost like they were possessed and extraterrestrial in nature. So that's what made me curious about. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, when we say extraterrestrial, that pertains to any entity that doesn't originate from this planet. And a black-eyed kid, in my opinion, does not originate from this planet. Now, I can't prove that, but based on the research of David Weberly and based on our research that we put into Watchers, and just fairly recently what we discovered, the testimony for who had an encounter with one, we think that these entities, these black-eyed kids, have the ability to appear and disappear pretty much at will. And that, of course, has a supernatural dynamic to it. Or at least it's operating in a realm of physics that we don't know about yet, however you want to couch that.
Well, it's very interesting. I have a friend who likes to walk a lot, and she was walking one day here out in, suburbia with houses, but these two kids, she got really spooked by them. They talked to her. She said she thought that the spirit told her not to look into their eyes, and then she started running again, and when she turned around, they had vanished.
Oh.
Like they weren't there in the first place.
Yeah.
Are we going to see more of this?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I just want to break in here. Breaking news from Fox News. Hostage taking in Bangladesh cafe. ISIS claims responsibility. At least 2 dead. And, of course, when this broke, I put it immediately up on the blog. But reports are coming out now. At least 2 dead. And this is the world that we're living in. These are the days of chaos. And people better wake up and understand that it's not business as usual. We are in for a heck of a ride here in the coming months.
Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, I was
Larry,
watching that. I was just going to say I was watching that situation in Bangladesh, and the latest on that is they have up to 60 hostages. There's about nine of the ISIS people, and they've shot like 30 or more cops. 2 cops dead, but they've shot 30 of them. And I saw one of the cops, and he was standing there holding what looked like to me to be probably a .38 caliber revolver. That's what he was armed with, and I'm thinking it's almost like America. Normal police they're not ready for this.
Well, I mean, I know we're off topic from black-eyed kids, but I think we need to deal with it, and what people need to understand. We've written about this, so it's really not off topic. This is the Days of Chaos. Watchers 9, Days of Chaos, the book. And, Rick and I spent a lot of time talking about, the terrorists and everything else. This is where we are, and this is not going to go away. And we're going to see more and more and more and more of it. And there's no way to stop it. You can round up all the guns in the world, and a terrorist is still going to get an AK-47 or another terrorist weapon, or he's going to build a pressure cooker, or he's going to build a bomb. I mean, it's endless. It's absolutely endless. And the only way to take these people out is to take them out. And that's where it's going to go. The only way to stop ISIS is to really clamp down. Trump is right when he talks about closing the borders to anybody from Middle Eastern countries that harbor terrorists, that promote jihad, that are promulgating Sharia over the Constitution. Don't allow them in the country. What are they, crazy? But, of course, guys like Joe Biden call this, demagoguery and xenophobia. Hillary Clinton calls it xenophobia, Islamophobia, homophobia. Well, let's walk through this, Joe and Hillary. Why don't you guys, both of you, in separate cars and in separate rooms, of course, spend the night in Nogales, Texas, the border town. But what I want you to do, take the Nogales challenge. I want you to go down there without your security unit. Oh, I can't do that. I'm the vice president. Just go down, Joe. Just go down. Just go down for the weekend. And when the gun starts, the gunshots start happening at 2 in the morning and all the mayhem and everything else, then you tell me about the southern border and why we should not build a wall. Then you explain to me why is it that every citizen in the United States should be required to take a gun class and own a firearm, period. That's where we're at. That's what's going on. But you've got your security team, just like Hillary does, and every one of those guys are armed to the teeth. Why is that, Joe? Why is that, Madam Secretary, with all due respect to both of you? The reason for it is it's very simple. Because there are people in the world that will shoot at you. And you have a security team, so guess what? Drum roll, please, anyone. You can shoot back and defend yourself. Hello! But in the meantime, you want to take our Second Amendment away. You want to abolish our Second Amendment rights. You want to round up our guns. Well, why don't we just, if we're going to do that, then we should do it all across the board and get rid of your security team, too. We'll arm them with pepper spray. How does that sound? Pepper spray. We'll just give them pepper spray. Okay, guys, go shoot. I've got my pepper spray. Good luck. Let me know how that works out.
Well, Larry was in police work for a long time. It's getting rough for the police. It really is. And yeah, go ahead.
No, I just said absolutely. I completely concur with you. Very
well. I tell you what, in L.A., I know Dan Gordon, and I've read his book out of the one he wrote about Israel and Hamas, and then I also read the second one, which details the southern border and an invasion there, and I mean that's a great book. That's an absolute great warning book that Dan Gordon wrote, and I know you're familiar with it. I know he's on his third one now, but how many books do they have to actually write, L.A., to warn America before maybe America's eyes pop open?
You would think by now that there would be the wake-up call, and I think there is a wake-up call, which is why, contrary to the media and even Fox News manipulating the latest polls, Trump is actually ahead. Rasmussen's got him up ahead 4 points. It's a 9-point swing in the last 2 weeks. Hillary is trailing now by basically 4 percentage points. That's the first time Trump actually overtook her. So I think that Americans are waking up and they're realizing that something's up, and that we. Let me ask your people listening to the show. Here you go. How many people in this country? How many of you people listening to this, whether it's on a tape or you're listening to it live or whatever, how many of you have not had someone go through rehab? How many of you have not had someone go through rehab? And when I'm at conferences, I ask this, and it's usually less than 10% of the people have not had someone go through rehab. You go back 50 years, no one knew what rehab was. Are you kidding me? Nobody knew. Now it's rampant, and the reason for it is the southern border is porous. George W. Bush promised us after the events of 9/11 that he would close the southern border. Guess what? He hasn't. He hasn't done it. Trump will build a wall. That's what we need. Oh, that's as long as... No, it's not. We already talked about Jordan, where 6 people were killed where a suicide bomber blew himself up and killed 6 Jordanians. So King Abdullah's going, that's it, we're done, we're building a wall. Oh, wait a minute, but that's Islam against Islam. That's Muslim against Muslim. Oh, isn't that interesting? King George is building a wall. I guess he's an Islamophobe, isn't he? I mean, these people here are just like Joe Biden. It's just nonsensical. You know, Islamophobia. Yeah, if that's what you want to call it. I mean, who's the Orlando shooter? Who was Major Hassan? What about the Boston bombing? I mean, need I Chattanooga? I mean, need I continue? The idea that Sharia trumps the Constitution. No, it doesn't. It never will, not in this country. We don't want Sharia here. If you want Sharia, go back to the country of your origin. We're not going to go by it. The Constitution was written, and that's what Americans, that's the rule of law. That's what we uphold in this country. If I went to Saudi Arabia, I couldn't sit there and protest and go, well, I want the Constitution here. No, I would adhere, or have to adhere, if I moved to Saudi Arabia, to Sharia law. And because I couldn't do that, I would never move to Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much. All due respect to the Saudis. So that's where we are.
Well, I could ask a question here. Joe Biden's not stupid.
No.
Hillary Clinton's not stupid. Obama's not stupid.
No,
so
Obama's
are we
great.
looking at an agenda here of deliberate, willful?
Yeah, the agenda is to break America, to strip it of its wealth, to raid it of its wealth, which they've already done, by the way, to make the elites even more rich, and to make the people equally poor. The tax burden against the middle class is so onerous, and Obama sits up there and goes, "You didn't make that." Excuse me? And well, you just got lucky. I just got lucky? That's why I'm successful, because I got lucky and I didn't make that? Let me ask you something, with all due respect, sir, and I know where you're going with your argument, because you're a socialist/communist. I did make that. Richard Shaw and I did make Watchers 10. We did make Watchers, all the other Watchers. I did write 10 books. And, you know, I stand on the shoulders of my mentor, Dr. I.D.E. Thomas, and other people, like Dave Lambert, who taught me how to write in the first place. My editor, Donovan, when he was there. That's, 16, 18 years ago now. But the bottom line is, actually 18 years ago, the bottom line is this. I did make that. I did make it. And I didn't get lucky. Maybe a certain amount of luck, but there's a lot of hard work that goes in with that luck. Because if you don't have the product, and you don't know how to write, and you don't know, and you don't do the research, and you don't do this, and you don't do that. And I'm an entrepreneur. We have a little publishing company, and we sell books, and we sell DVDs online. We couldn't do that, 30 years ago. We couldn't do it because the publishers owned everything, and you would basically whore yourself out to a publishing company. Now, we don't need to sell 100,000 copies. We can make a good living by selling 20,000 copies, which is incredible. And that's what we're trying to do. So I did make that, and that's the American way. But the tax burden on the middle class is so onerous that many companies, many small businesses have just gone out of business. They've just given up, thrown up their hands. They can't stay in business. Do you know if you're not an S Corp, and I just did it for 2016, this year's taxes, it's an automatic, I think it's like a $20,000 fine that you pay the Fed for doing business as sole proprietorship. That's it. $20,000 comes right out of your pocket in taxes. That's where we are. And then there's the debacle of Obamacare, where the rates go up and up and up and up and up. And when he told us that if you have your health care plan, you can keep your health plan. Well, sir, with all due respect, I had a great health care plan, and I was paying X amount of dollars, and now I'm paying about 30 or 40% more because when Obamacare came into being, I was dropped just because Obamacare came into being. Thank you. So, Jefferson said this, and my hero, one of my heroes, Judge Napolitano, used to say it on his show every night. A government is best that governs least. It's Thomas Jefferson. I'll say it again. A government is best that governs least. We have so many restrictions, so many executive orders, so many laws, and then there's a homeowners association. So you finally get a little piece of the American dream, and they're just going to tell you what color grass you can grow. I mean, that's basically it. And then, of course, the property taxes never go away, so you never own your own home. And then, of course, you pay into Social Security all your life, and you get a little measly check that you can't live on. My mother is 94 years old. My father paid into it all his life, okay? They were married. So my father passed away 2 years ago. You would think a fair government would give my mother, who is a widow, my father's Social Security. Well, we can't do that, L.A. Unfortunately, your father passed away, so she doesn't get any of his Social Security. How can my mother live on $1,500 a month? She can't. She can't, which is why she's living with us. She's living off, her savings and the inheritance after my father passed away. But we sold her house, and she's living off that money. In other words, it doesn't work. The system stinks. It's broken. And at 65 years old, I wonder, the way the country's going, whether I'll ever see Social Security. We are $22 trillion in debt. It's a house of cards. It's a house of cards. And when it collapses, not if, because it will collapse. By the way, the commodities are going up. Gold's up $24 today. Silver is now over $19. I haven't seen that in, 2 years? So, silver made a huge climb today. And, in fact, this week, I think it started around 17. It's up to like $19.85. And we'll see what it does next week. More than likely, it'll go down back under 19. But if it's any idea of what's going on, watch the commodities market, because that's how you can tell when the collapse is going to come. Because that's what starts to going up. Brexit happened. They voted to get out of the EU, and the currency markets got a little wobbly. That's why gold and silver is up this week. That's what's going on. So it'll adjust next week a little bit, but maybe it's a trend. Maybe precious metals will continue to go up. The paper that we have is just funny money. It's not backed up by anything. $22 trillion in debt, as the Donald says. He's right. And the fact that Obama sits there and his claim to fame is making transgender bathrooms in all the schools, and now in every park in the nation going to have a transgender bathroom. So that's his legacy. That's what he's going to be remembered by. Voting for the transgenders. It's insane. We got 92 million people out of the workforce. We got 60 million people on food stamps. We got real problems in this country. We got a wave of illegal immigrants coming across a porous border. We've got drug cartels, which is decapitating people, sawing them up with chainsaws and God knows what else, right across our border. We've got ISIS, as Dan Gordon talks about, who are helping dig those tunnels, and they'll pop up in San Diego at some point. We need to build the wall. We need to build the wall. We need to control the wall. We need to stop 100 immigrants a day coming in from Muslim countries, specifically from Syria. We have no idea who these people are. None. And is there any way the FBI and our government can ensure us that all 100 people coming in on a daily basis, there's not even one terrorist? 1%? How do you know that, sir? Is there any paperwork? Are these people being vetted? Nothing. And this is lunacy. And it's calculated lunacy to bring this country down, in my humble opinion. That's what's going on. And that's why Trump scares the bejeebies out of these people, because they're looking at Trump. And Newt Gingrich said it on Bill O'Reilly. He said they're afraid of Donald because he's not part of a network. He's not part of, drumroll please, the secret societies. He's not part of that. He's not part of the good old boy club, Skull and Bones with, W. Look, I wrote about this today. The election was supposed to be between Hillary, the House of Clinton, and the House of Bush. That's what it's supposed to be. Bernie almost upset the apple cart. Trump did upset the apple cart. When, low energy Jeb was finally pushed off the stage and out he went. Thank God he went. The guy was just, with all due respect, are you kidding me? Low energy Jeb. Lion Ted, Little Marco, the whole crew. And I get it. That's how Trump is. And I think he's sick and tired of the nonsense, the career politicians, and frankly, I am too. So, but that's who was supposed to run in this election cycle. So Trump is a marked man. And I read about this. He's already got great security. He needs even better security, because they're going to go after him. Watch the Republican nonsense. If they pull any funny business, and you got guys like Bill Kristol and what's his name, George Will, leaving the Republican. We don't care. Good riddance. Get out of the Republican Party. Who do you think you people are? All you are, in my opinion, are Washington weasels who are bought and sold by the Washington Beltway crowd. And the reason why you're terrified about Trump is Trump is going to upset the apple cart. God willing, he gets in there, he will upset the apple cart. He will bring jobs back. He will make America great again. And I just believe he'll do it. I'm reading his book. The guy is a deal maker. And he's brilliant.
Yes, he's a
brilliant
businessman.
deal maker. He's bombastic. Have you noticed, though, he's toning it down a little bit? And he's becoming more presidential. And Obama stands up and goes, Trump, we're not going to hire a game show host. Excuse me, sir, with all due respect, you're just a community organizer. What have you made? What have you done? Nothing. Yet you get the Nobel Peace Prize? I mean, this is how rigged the whole system is. It's just wacky. Where Trump has employed thousands of people, and he's an extremely successful businessman. The elites are terrified of this guy because he's going to start telling people what's really going on. And he already is. He already came on the record and said, let me see if I can find it here. Trump basically stated that the meeting between Clinton and Attorney General Loretta Lynch was to try to have Loretta Lynch back off because Hillary is the nominee. That's what that meeting was. Talking about their grandkids? Are you kidding me? What do you think we are, stupid? I mean, do you really think we're stupid at this point? Please. That's what it was.
Well, now we know Trump has got them scared. What's his chance of survival? I mean, even if he gets elected. I mean, you can have security, but let's face it. If they want to target somebody, they can remove them.
There's a shadow government that runs this country, and I think it's clear that there's a shadow government that runs the country. If Trump gets in, that may be exposed. And the Masons used to run the country, and right after the Revolutionary War, it was illegal, and most people don't know this. It was illegal for a Mason to hold office in this country. It was illegal. That's how things were, in the 19th century, the beginning of the 19th century, 1812, that area. They just were adamant about this stuff. Now the Masonic lodges are basically all over the United States, but he's not part. Trump isn't part of this. So if he gets in and starts bringing, look, this is on Fox News. Trump implies Bill Clinton was lobbying for leniency in Hillary's probe. That's what's going on. That's what's really going on here. And Loretta Lynch really should recuse herself. Anybody else who would do this would have to recuse themselves immediately. But because it's Clinton and this whole deal, everybody tap dances around it. Here's another thing from Fox News. Is the media ignoring findings of Benghazi's committee report? Of course the media is, because they're all in the tank for Hillary. But if it were anybody else, look, 4 people were killed, and this is nasty. And the fact that the media isn't going with it shows you how in the tank they are to liberalism, the one world government, the multi-culti nonsense, and the liberal left belief.
Well, and then you have this the deal with the President of the United Nations suddenly mysteriously passes on, who is going to testify against Hillary, I take it?
Well, the body count. I mean, I linked some very interesting. Look, Clinton has been indicted ever since the days when he was governor. Scandal after scandal after scandal, and he's like the Teflon Don. He just skates constantly. He knows how to play the game. These are very dangerous people, in my opinion. Extremely dangerous people. 4 people are dead in Benghazi, let's not move on, Hillary. Let's not move on. You guys played the classic wag the dog with the nonsense about, the film that the Muslims were enraged about. No, this was a carefully planned terrorist attack, and you knew that. And please don't tell us you don't remember, because you do remember, with all due respect. So people need to wake up and understand what's really going on here. The emails, anybody else would be indicted by now. The fact that, Bill is meeting with Attorney General tells you what's going on. I mean, You think that we're that stupid to really believe that they're talking about their grandkids? I mean, what? I mean, is that a classic wagging dog or what? Or we're just talking about our grandkids. How's your grandkid? Oh, he's pretty good. What's his name? Henry. What's your grandkid's name? Oh, my name is. Her name is Jill. How are they doing? They're doing really good. You know, he was just in school for half an hour. Half an hour they're going to be talking. I don't think so. I don't believe that story for a New York minute. Not a minute. So I don't think a lot of people believe it. But that's where we are. The system is so corrupt. Carter Fiorina stated when she left the Republican Party, or when she left the step down from the, seeking the nomination for President of the United States, the system is rigged. On the Republican side, Bernie Sanders, when he finally quit, said, "It's system is rigged. Of course it's rigged. It's all rigged. It was supposed to be the House of Clinton and the House of Bush. So it doesn't matter who you get. They're all inside, and business as usual. The crony nonsense happens. The Washington Beltway gang continues their nonsense. It's a good old boy network. Nothing ever gets done. Nothing ever gets changed."
Do you think the Republican convention will get rid of Trump, or try to?
If they do, there'll be anarchy in the country, and I mean that. If they make a move like that, anything's possible. I mean, Texas has already talked about, the whole thing with, Brexit. Now they're talking about Brexit, right? So that wouldn't surprise me. I mean, if they really, try to do something with Trump, and he has the nomination, the people have voted. And if they don't go with the people, there will be anarchy. There will be such backlash and pushback, and they know that. It's like Brexit. The people in this country have absolutely had it with the same old worn-out talking points, and that's why it didn't work for Jeb. I mean, he was a shoo-in 3 years ago. I mean, I would joke, vote for Jeb, right? That whole deal. I would joke about it 3 years ago, before they even, because he was the favorite son. He was the guy that was going to, I'd be in Peru at the tour going, vote for Jeb. Just, random vote for Jeb. And everybody would kind of laugh and chuckle. Well, there is no more vote for Jeb. Jeb's off the stage. The nominee is Donald Trump. And people saw through Jeb's hollow talking points, the same old worn-out talking points that are memorized, that are not from the core values, not from the heart. With Trump, you get what you get. You see what you get. The guy's a fighter. He's not gonna play around. He's not. So, Trump implies Bill is lobbying for leniency in the white probe. I just love it. I mean, there it is. He's saying what the rest of us are thinking, and some of us are too afraid to say it.
Yes. But I guess what I'm getting at, the elite are, they spent billions and billions of dollars getting to this point. We know that there's an agenda afoot. Would this be a good way to create anarchy by doing this to Trump? I mean, this is what they want. They want chaos so that they can bring in martial law.
Yeah.
So what would be your take on if they deliberately did this to Trump?
Well, again, I mean, if they try to take the nomination away from him, I believe it will be absolute anarchy, and I mean absolute anarchy. So, it's what can I tell you? They just can't do it. They just can't do it. People, there will be anarchy. There'll be rioting, and people. I'm not sure there's no movement to. I mean, will Trump start a movement? I mean, if it's a third, who are they gonna put up? John McCain? I mean, that's an absolute joke.
Yeah.
Bill Kristol was trying to float that up. I mean, that's not going to work. So, I don't know. I just don't know.
Well, we seem to be at a really, tipping point here in the United States, and it is, how far can you push the American people? Like you were saying, the food stamps, unemployment rate is horrendous. Companies are downsizing. Yeah. Everything is going south.
Literally, everything is going south. Everything's going to Mexico. And this is the problem. The elites just want to reap profits. I have a real problem with Home Depot. I have a problem with Costco. I have a problem with the big box realtors. I don't think you can put the genie back in the bottle. But what that did is it put out, I'll give you the idea with Home Depot. It took out thousands of small little lumber yards all across the country that competed with one another. That's the first thing it did. Thousands of them are gone. Costco did the same thing. Walmart did the same thing. So, yeah, we get lower prices, but what do we sacrifice for it? What do we really sacrifice for it? How many people lost their jobs because of it? How many little businesses went under because of it? And
yes.
Can we put the genie back in the bottle again? I don't think so. How can you dismantle Home Depot? How can you dismantle Costco or Walmart or anything else? You can't. You can't. But the problem is no one can compete with them. Nobody, a small guy can't compete with Home Depot. So you have to diversify and carry things that Home Depot doesn't carry, and there are lumber companies that actually still do that. And that's how you diversify enough and stay afloat. But it's getting more and more difficult.
Mm-hmm.
The big boys don't like the little guy. And the government used to, the middle class is what supported the government. The middle class, let me put it this way, the middle class was the backbone of this country. The middle class is being eradicated. The powers that be know that and are deliberately attempting to eradicate it. That's why the onerous tax burden. And eventually, there was a gun to say, I was in Home Depot the other day because there's no other place to go. And I was in Home Depot, and there was a guy there, and I could see he was very bright, a guy about my age, maybe a few years younger. I looked at the guy after talking to him for a minute or two, and I go, what are you doing here? He started laughing. He goes, well, I used to be an electrical engineer. I said, really, what happened? He goes, well, after 25 years, I got laid off. And I just went, okay, there you go. Electrical engineer, 25 years, guy, smart guy, 25 years he gets laid off, working at Home Depot for $10 an hour.
Yeah.
That's what they want. Everybody equally poor, equally poor. I've been to Peru. I know what a two-class system looks like. I've been to Mexico. I know what a two-class system looks like. No middle class. The 1% elite, and then everybody's equal underneath, equally poor. And it sucks.
Yep.
Doesn't work.
Well, moving to another subject, what's your take on the Netanyahu-Putin get-together, that little cozy get-together they're doing?
I'm not sure what to think about that because that goes against what Putin's been doing. So I really don't know. It's very, very interesting because Putin is in bed with Bashar al-Assad and he's backed the Iranians. And the Iranians are, the sworn enemy of Israel.
Yes.
So, the fact that Netanyahu is sitting down with, Vladimir is very telling. I'd love to be a fly on the wall in that meeting and understand what they're talking about. Because it's very interesting. The Iranians or the Russians are the ones who put the fuel rods in the Iranian reactors. The Russians are the ones who are propping up Bashar al-Assad. The Russians are the ones that are basically invaded the Middle East, which was completely unprecedented. And I got to go in 6 minutes, guys, just so you know. But I don't know how long your show is. I thought it was just for an hour, but I'm kind of thinking suspicion it's longer. But
okay.
What was interesting is people talk about the blood moons, and they're always going, this blood moon nonsense, there's nothing happening. And you sit there and go, excuse me, everything happened with the blood moon. Well, what do you mean? Well, I'll tell you what I mean. 2 unprecedented events happened in 2015 with the blood moons. The first is the Russians entered the Middle East, unprecedented, en masse with a great military force, unprecedented. Never happened before, to the best of my knowledge. The second one is upwards or more of 1 million Muslims overran Europe, which is an invasion. Absolutely an unprecedented event, which is changing the cultural fabric of that continent. So, people ask me, blood moon, this whole bunch of nonsense. nonsense. You just got to, people, I guess, are expecting the planet to split in half or something. You got to keep your eyes open. In my opinion, 2 unprecedented events happened in 2015. The Russians coming to the Middle East and this massive Muslim immigration. So there you go.
Yes. Well, we are getting close. There's no question about it. You run the numbers, and then you run the Bible codes, and they're all pointing to the 2016, 2017, 2018 area for a major shift to take place.
Well, I think things are shifting already, and Trump is not part of that shift, and that's why they're afraid of him. Trump is not supposed to be doing what he's doing. Trump's the wild card. That's why it's great. Just think about this. The media hates him, check. The Washington insiders hate him, check. World leaders hate him, check. Our current president hates him, check. I mean, you can go right down the checklist. Everybody hates him. The people love him. Yay! I guess he's the God. He's the God. Because everybody is already in the tank. They're afraid of this guy because he's actually going to bring real change. The change that we got from Obama with transgendered bathrooms, gay rights, gay marriage, more abortion, higher taxes, and the mess which is known as Obamacare.
Well, I mean, it's just one of those things where I think biblical prophecy against the United States is just being fulfilled, and they can't. It's just going to happen, and people are. I guess what amazes me is the lack of discernment on the part of the American people. It's like they can't see anything, like they're blind to this.
Well, see, the problem is like you go back 100 years ago in the churches, because there was no media and there were newspapers. The pulpits, the churches, the pastors talked about this stuff. They don't do that anymore. They don't do it. They don't talk about. Some pastors do. Most pastors don't. That, in my opinion, is why the people perish for lack of knowledge. And here we are. Here we are.
Yeah. Any closing remarks you'd like to make before you have to leave us?
Well, look, I would say this, guys, that these are the days of chaos. There's no doubt. And if you haven't checked out the book Days of Chaos or the DVD Watchers 9, Days of Chaos by the same name, there goes L.A. Now he's hawking his book. He just wants us to buy something. Okay, don't buy it. Stay ignorant. I've spent an hour talking about this stuff. You want to go deeper? You want to find out what's going on? Get Watchers 9. Get Days of Chaos, the book. Educate yourself. See what's happening. Learn what's going on. Open your eyes. Get your heads out of the sand, ostrich people, and wake up. These are the days of chaos. Right now there's a terrorist event happening in Bangladesh. A couple of days ago, there was one at the Turkish airport in Istanbul. A week before that, we had Orlando. It ain't going away. 92 million people out of the workforce. Weird, wild weather. Unprecedented. I mean, I could just sit here and go on. Wars and rumors of wars. Earthquakes in diverse places. Everything that Jesus warned us about is firing on all 8 cylinders. So go to LAMarzulli.net. You can also get the new Watchers 10 DVD. It's not available yet. You can do a pre-sale. Watchers 10 DNA Evidence. We opened the show with that. And, of course, my new book, Nephilim Hybrid, which we're really excited about. And that we sent out an email blast today to about 9,000 people. And I sent you guys an email. Check it out when you get a chance, guys. And you can check about being or look into being partnering with us. And you'll see the way that works. It's all in the email. And, get us back on. We can talk about the DNA evidence and all the stuff in Watchers 10. We'd love to come back and blab about it with you.
Yeah, we'd love to see that. That sounds very exciting to have. Well, you guys have done so much work, you and Richard, and, traveling around and actually getting to scientific facts, and that's the best way to do it. But I really appreciate you coming on. We really appreciate it.
You guys having me on, and let's do it again soon.
All righty.
Thanks, L.A.
Thanks, Larry. Good hearing your voice.
Yep, take care.
All righty. Good night, guys.
Yep, night. Okay, Larry, where do we go from here? What's the latest in the Middle East? Let's start with the Middle East. You've really been watching that.
Well, one of the things that, L.A. was talking about, and you had asked him about was why is Netanyahu and Vladimir Putin wheeling and dealing and meeting and talking, and this is what's interesting, Stewart. They even are doing war games, and their militaries are involved with each other, which is unprecedented in the Middle East. I mean, Israeli and Russian military, whether it's ships at sea, whether it's airplanes in the air, whether it's the drones, whether it's mechanized forces, they're working together. They're working together, and there's something really strange going on. Over the last 7+ years, Stuart, you know as well as I do that Obama has done nothing but turn on Israel totally, and he's turned all of our favoritism of the U.S. to Iran, which is their sworn enemy. And, I got to thinking one day when Iran was saying, drive them into the sea. Well, it's kind of interesting that they're using that terminology, Stuart, because of the fact that they're not worried about the Israelis swimming. They want to drive them into the sea and drown them and kill every single, Israeli that exists today, every Jew that exists today. Of course, that goes for Christians too, but I think there's something behind this, and I want to link it up with, I know part of the rationale of Netanyahu and Putin working together is this Leviathan gas field, or this energy group that Israel has put into the Mediterranean and off Greece and working with that. And now there's reports that the Golan Heights, who Israel has control over, is now mineral rich and oil rich, and I think somehow this is connected to energy, and you know well as I do that Putin is really into the energy game. I mean that's one of his big bags. Matter of fact, that's why he kind of took over Crimea, and really on the verge of maybe going into Ukraine too, is the energy pipelines and the energy. He actually provides the energy that keeps all of Europe warm every winter.
Well, Stan, when we had Stan Dale on, remember he was talking about the vast gas and oil deposits. Putin would definitely want to get a hold of that. So is he cozying up to Netanyahu pretending? And then there's the big double cross? Or is Netanyahu and Putin getting together to stop a NATO invasion?
Well, you know well as I do that not only does Obama have designs, and those that serve him have designs on Jerusalem or Israel,
yes,
or really the whole Middle East, and Obama has made threats. And, between me and you and the fence post, Stewart, you know well as I do that the only reason that Putin is backing Assad is not because he agrees with Assad and he believes everything Assad's doing is what he'd be doing, because you know well as I do that he doesn't. He's a different cut. The reason that Russia is backing Assad right now is to keep the security of those, the Latakia and those port and those ship military bases, in the Middle East, and they're in Syria, and that's the main purpose. And that's where also Putin has centralized his defenses, and also threatened Turkey from, and also has already introduced nukes into that front, into that Syrian battlefield, so to speak. So, you've got that, and then at the same time, there are reports, that Netanyahu, he's no fool. He's a wild card. He's kind of like the description that was being given of Trump. There's a few wild cards out there, and the Netanyahu is one of those, and he's been around a long time, and he's survived a lot. He survived the Clinton times when Clinton was in pre-office before and tried to get rid of him, and now he's survived through almost 8 years of Obama doing the very same thing. I think you're right. I think that, if Netanyahu, he probably has the sense that NATO might invade Israel, because, number one, they do not want Israel to have Jerusalem. And Israel says they'll never give Jerusalem up, so they have to invade to stop that. And one of the, you've got Putin. So what you've got here, now this is what's interesting, Stewart, and I want your comments on this. For some time, Netanyahu has been a wild card that's being played out in the Middle East, involving Israel and the survival of Israel and where they're going. And at the same time, Putin has been a wild card for some years now and playing his situations around the world. But now, all of a sudden, it seems like, and I agree with L.A., this thing was, to go from Obama, that already crowned Hillary Queen, and she was already, the fix is in. The fix was in, I'll put it that way. Then all of a sudden you've got this disruptor or this usurper or this Trump wild card has stood up. And you've heard what Trump said he will do for how he will back Israel and how he's not really worried about Putin, that he could work with Putin. You've got three wild cards. Now, Trump's not in office yet, and, of course, he's laughed at threat, and we know that. We've seen it already. But you've got a Netanyahu, Putin, and Trump. There's three wild cards in the deck. So this is something really to watch very closely in the next few months.
Well, I know, I'm sure that NATO, like you said, they want Jerusalem. They want the Temple Mount. The Pope wants it. So it would make sense, I suppose, for Netanyahu to make some ties, even with his enemy. I can't imagine he doesn't know that Russia might well be Gog, and he certainly must know Ezekiel 38 and 39. So that's what's interesting to me about it, is what is the reason for him being so cozy? Now he has Russian military machines essentially right across the border from Israel.
Oh yeah, they're right on the. Yeah, they're right there. The Russians are right there, and of course, a lot of people don't know it, but the Russians also have a cyber defensive capability. The basis of that, in Syria. I mean, they really literally control the cyber activity, the command and control electronic activity of that whole region right now. A lot of people don't understand that. However, Putin and Netanyahu are working together. Now, here's what I would say, Stewart. This is just my opinion only. It's not, I don't have any field intelligence to back this up. But I have to say this: Netanyahu probably knows that of all the ones involved, whether it's Erdogan in Turkey or Obama and the NATO and the UN and Europe, the EU, and all of that, and the Pope in Rome, and et cetera, Putin is probably the least threat right now to Israel itself. Putin is probably the least threat to Jerusalem right now. Now that don't mean that won't change, but right now,
yes.
And the reason I'll dovetail this right into that what I just said. When I was, I talked a number of times to Dan Gordon, and I've had him on a radio show a few times. You have too, with both of us. And one of the things I asked Dan Gordon one time, because I know Dan is very heavily involved with the military activity and the security of Israel and Hamas and Hezbollah and the Syrians, the Russian deal and all that. and the Jordan and all of that region right there. And I asked Dan Gordon, I said, okay, I said, Dan, I know that y'all are watching Hamas right now, that's ready to renew attacks. I know that ISIS is close on the border, ready to do any attacks. I know that Hezbollah is ready to fire thousands of missiles at Tel Aviv just any time. And I know y'all are watching this. What's the future look like for Israel, or what do you gear your political and military intelligence towards doing to survive or win? And he said something very simple, but it answered my question, Stewart. Dan Gordon just simply said, we are playing for time. And to me, that was the key.
Are they developing something like we did over here with the Manhattan Project? Do they have some weapon that they aren't quite ready yet to release?
Well, I do know that they've got some weapons that they haven't. I've seen a little bit about some of their weaponry. We also know that if you'll remember. You remember a guy by the name of Barry Chamish?
Oh, yes, sure.
Well, and I know this is getting a little bit far out, and we're talking about the Middle East, but this gets a little bit on the edge of the Middle East. But, with me and you, we can go to the edge pretty easy.
This
Barry
is Chamish channels.
That's
what we do. That's what we do.
You yeah, you remember Barry Chamish wrote a really incredible book. It was called The Return of the Giants. And it was really, really good. I got a copy. I got a hard copy. And it came out, and then all of a sudden it vanished from bookstores, bookshelves. It was gone. Barry Chamish had to literally uproot and move from Israel. And he's here somewhere in the U.S., I think, lately. But and he said that he had to disassociate totally with the book because of the fact that it brought so much heat down on him that he couldn't even get a radio show anymore or even talk to anybody. Nobody even talked to him. Now, you remember what he said? He wrote that Return of the Giants. He actually did an in-depth report along with photographs of craft that were coming back to Israel, and some of them in these craft were, the witnesses said, were giants. And if you'll remember, there was also some short reports that there was landings of craft in Israel, and there was talks between those that came out of the craft and the Israeli government.
I remember that.
If you'll remember, Stewart, if you'll connect this dot, it was shortly thereafter that Iran got hit with something called Stuxnet, something nobody had ever heard of before. Now, I'll say this, and because I'm saying this because, I know the U.S. took credit for Stuxnet later on down. Well, when all of it hit Iran's computers, the U.S. wouldn't take credit at all. And then people said, well, Israel did it. But Israel didn't say that for a long time. But now, of course, Israel says, okay. And this is what's interesting, though. There's a guy named McAfee. You're familiar with his name. And then there's a guy named Kaspersky. Now, what we're talking about there, McAfee, matter of fact, McAfee is running for president in the U.S. I don't know if anybody knows that because it's a separate little party off to the side.
Yeah, he's the guy that does the spyware and stuff, right? To block spyware and stuff.
Cybersecurity and spyware and really in-depth stuff, And Kaspersky is the same thing, but he's a Russian guy. And both guys, Kaspersky and McAfee, had came out and said that whatever Israel, wherever they had obtained this cyberware, it was, and I'm going to tell you, this is the word, it was like that it was self-aware, and when it was entered into those computers and those computer systems, it began to move and grow and embed itself in other ones, and it also evolved or changed in what it did on its own. And Kaspersky and McAfee both said down the road, cybersecurity wasn't going to really mean anything because wherever this Stuxnet, as it was called in the beginning, wherever it came from, it's in the system and it's doing something nobody even knows. It's literally out of control. They don't know where it's going or what it's doing completely. They're trying to keep up with it, trying to follow it, but it's beyond them. And it reminds me so much, Stewart, of, you remember the Terminator's movies and the one called Skynet?
Oh, yes, yes.
It reminds me a little bit of, and I know people think, well, there he goes again on another movie, but there are clues in movies. And
lots of clues.
Wherever Israel got this, Stewart, I know a lot of times, it could be, we know, as L.A. was talking about, the fallen ones have given secrets and
yes.
technology for years. And so it could be, I don't know where it came from, but I know it's something, and it's doing what, and they're not telling you. Where have you heard about Stuxnet lately, Stewart, on the Internet, or anything about it?
You don't hear about it at all. Yeah,
the big
you don't.
The big secret.
Well, it's like the book The Day After Roswell with Philip Corso. He's the one who said that, they got all this stuff from the crash saucers and backwards engineering, and we know they were channeling stuff as well. The German high-tech anti-gravity stuff all came from channeling, so we know it came from the dark side.
Sure.
Wow.
So when you ask me, Stuart, where they're going, that's my answer though to Netanyahu and Putin. I think that right now Putin is the least threat, the smallest threat against Israel at the moment, and because of the gas and energy situation, which really, really interests Putin especially, that gives them some area to work together. And I do believe that Netanyahu, as well as, like Ben Gordon said, Israel is just playing for time. They know where all of this is headed. They know the scriptures. Israel knows the scriptures. Matter of fact, I talked to someone that the Israelis tried to hire or come over there to work with them on the Torah codes. The Israelis have their own military function where they go into the Torah codes. They've got their own groups that go into the Torah, the Word itself, the prophecies. I mean, they have gone into all this in secret, and other countries are doing the same thing. But
yes.
I think Israel, they're not ignorant. They know where this is going. They're not ignorant of Gog and Magog. They're not ignorant of Ezekiel 38 and 39 or the Psalm 83 war. They know where this is headed, and they're just literally playing for time and survival. Is really, I believe, their card game, so to speak, is they're trying to survive a little longer.
Yeah, it does make you wonder if they're looking at weaponry or some other means of that survival, and they just need a little more time. It was kind of like the Manhattan Project in developing the atomic bomb. They were on a crash course. We got to get this thing done. And so it does make you wonder if they're. We had a friend that came over from the Twin Cities. He was an electrical engineer, and he knew a lot about Israeli weaponry. And he claimed that they already had developed some sort of cloaking devices. And that was years ago.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it does make you wonder. Yeah.
Yeah, plus they do have weaponry that has the capability to go wherever they send it, and it can make it dark in your country.
Yes. Well, we got the North Korean satellites going overhead, and they've done some low-yield testing, which is indicative of EMP weaponry. That's how they make those. Some of the experts over here said, well, the North Korean tests failed because they were very low yield. But that's exactly what you want with an EMP weapon. You want a low yield, but it can take, if you explode it over the center of the country, you just about knock out America. I mean, we wouldn't survive very long if we lost our electrical grid.
Well, neither would we. Would lose millions just almost overnight. That book, 1 Second After by Fortune, it is really is interesting because it explains that on how many people that are even on medications, they'll die shortly. A lot of them will go instantly. I mean, you talk about death on a scale that we've never seen in America. That would happen. You got
got into the giants a little bit. Have you talked? I was going to try and get into that with L.A., but we didn't have time. What have you heard about this stuff on the DNA? Did they actually run it and find it was extraterrestrial, or aren't they talking? Or
I've seen some of the trailer information, plus a little more than the trailer information, which I can't disclose because the DVD's not out yet. And but yes, they do have DNA, and they have ran it, and they have results. I do not know the results. We're having to wait on Richard and L.A. to reveal that, and it'll be in Watchers 10, which he said in a couple of weeks. I knew it was coming out this month. And I tell everybody to get a copy of that because it's going to have incredible stuff. And when you talk about giants, that's where we're coming from. And, and it's interesting, Barry Chamish wrote his book, Return of the Giants, and then had to run from it like crazy. It was too hot a topic and actually had to leave the Middle East. But
that's kind of a clue, isn't it? That if they had to just destroy the book, basically. I remember when the book None Dare Call It Treason came out, it all of a sudden just disappeared from all the bookshelves.
Well, the same thing happened to, there was another couple of books that happened to. One was talking about the fire, let's see, what was the title of that? Gary
Evil Fire Made to Burn? Yeah, Evil Fire Made to Burn.
Yeah, that happened to that one. And also Joel Rosenberg wrote a book, a warning book about Israel and the Middle East and where it was going. And there were literally 0 copies. It was a paperback. And you can't find one, and Amazon can't get it for you, and nobody can. He actually did an e-book a little bit on it, but it was like one of those people didn't want the information out, and they just blocked it totally. And that's what, L.A. was having the same trouble. He recently did a radio show on YouTube, and they shut him down on that. Matter of fact, it reminded me of it was the one he did, I think, with Dan Gordon, because, we
got shut down.
The Vimeo of Dan Gordon that when we did the interview, it was took down,
Yes.
And it's just some information they do not want out. And, Stewart, I wonder every day. I write a blog every day and sometimes twice. And I wonder how much longer they're going to allow us to actually post some of the stuff we're posting or talk about what we're talking about, because they can't let this go on forever. The rich men can't. There's too much warning going out there.
Yeah. Yeah, people are beginning to wake up, which is very dangerous because that means probably that the rich men of the earth are going to have to move quicker, and they make mistakes sometimes when they do that. But it's going to get bloody, I think. They've got. How can they back off? They're committed. They've got to do this now. It's like they're running it right out in the open. You saw that deal on the tunnel over there in the Switzerland area?
Yeah.
I mean, that was so blatantly satanic. And yet, I don't think too many people said anything. Have you heard anything about it?
I think that, Stuart, that they've gone so far. And this is, I'll tie this in with where we were talking about also an arrival. I think that the rich men they pushed it to the limit. People are waking up, and they've gone so far, but they've had difficulties. And as a matter of fact, this Trump card, or wild card as some call it, this is like it came out of nowhere. They already had this thing locked up. This 2016 election was already set to be what it was going to be, and it was going to be Hillary and Bush, and everybody knows that. They know that for a fact. And, I think, though, that's why I've said all along that they've gone too far. They can't back up now because they're too exposed. And to me, that means, I know the rich men, and I know that they deal on greed. They actually biblical terminology is kill, kill, and destroy. That's how they operate. And
yes.
I think if they could take this world system, all of it, and leave the bad guys on the other side out of it, they would do that. But I think that they're going to make mistakes, just like you said. They're rushed now. Trump's in there. Netanyahu and Putin are doing things that really is stalling out what they've got plans for. Ban Ki-moon. Matter of fact, Ban Ki-moon and Netanyahu had a meeting the other day, which is odd because, Ban Ki-moon, his term is up this year, and we know whose eyes is on that office, and that's Obama's. And so, but I'm thinking, though, that the rich men, I do believe, are going to have so many problems that they're not going to get this thing set in concrete, so to speak, the New World Order. They're going to have the problems. They're going to have to turn to this arrival card or this arrival scenario or Plan B or whatever and bring in the others and see what they don't understand. To get this thing locked in, they're going to need their help. But the others, if you go back in history, they don't play well with others. The others don't. And
no, they don't.
And it could be a menu, actually, to serve man.
Well, maybe Rod Serling in Twilight had some inside information. Makes you wonder. And if you remember that particular one, to serve man, how big those things were, how tall they were.
Yeah.
And that reminds me of the tall whites in a way. So where do they get this information from? Even back then, it seemed like Hollywood was being fed information.
Yeah. I think you're exactly right. And the interesting things about the tall whites, because I've read every single one of Charlie Hall's books where he actually talked about the tall whites that he worked with when he was in the Air Force. And it was interesting. The tall whites had not, for one thing, they had technology, and they had craft, and they had weapons that were technological weapons, physical technological weapons, except the tall whites also had an ability about them to, psychic or wherever you want to call it, a paranormal ability to injure or hurt someone or do things, paranormally or supernaturally, more so than even, they could hurt you or they could kill you with their technology, or they could just simply do it supernaturally with the paranormal. So, the tall whites are very interesting. They remind me a lot, Stewart, almost of fallen angels or Nephilim or hybrids.
Yeah. Well, the remote viewers, we talked about that, I think, once before. But when you go out, let's say, and you're traveling around in this remote viewing concept, they can sense your presence. Is that not correct?
They did mine, and I was not in my body. I was in my spirit, body. I was traveling in the spirit, guarded by the Lord. And I was going to ask L.A Marzullii something about that, and I'll do it next time we get him on or we get to talk to him, because he made a comment one time I heard about. He had an experience of some kind out of the body, and he said what was so shocking or refreshing to him was when he was in that out-of-the-body experience, the sin nature wasn't available. It wasn't operating in him like it does in the flesh. And
yes,
so I wanted to comment to him that he's exactly right, 100% right, because, I've had the Lord take me out of my body and take me in the spirit a number of occasions where I'm in my spirit body, and there is no sin nature available. The thought processes, the flow of thinking, and the paradigm of the human nature is simply not there. It's like you've left it with the flesh body, and that's so remarkable. But what you asked me, the question you asked me, absolutely. Some of these other entities, they certainly can know you're there, even in the spirit. you know, if you're not guarded by the Lord or protected by angels, et cetera, you know, I would be careful in what I did, because, you know, there's a number of remote viewers have really come out and admitted that sometimes when they were gone, they'd come back and something else was in their body, a spirit. And they've had to, I think Russ Dizdar has literally had deliverance sessions with some of those. You know, see, that's the thing, Stewart, when it's not initiated by the Spirit of God, the Holy Spirit, your body is not guarded while you're gone. And so when you return, the enemy can have come in and sown evil, and you'll never know it. So all of a sudden you find when you come home in your body, it's there.
Okay, this is another good question then. We've remote viewing travels here, there, everywhere. What about the bots? Cliff High, they kind of claim they're tapping into some sort of universal consciousness. And, of course, for those of you who are not familiar with the bots that are listening, it's a computer program. I don't know how it works, but it monitors changes in language. And then from those changes in language, they can sort of predict the future. Now, their timing is horrific. It never works the way they claim it will. And they admit it. Cliff I will admit that their, you know, the timing is not really on. And, you know, that's interesting that the same thing applies to the remote viewers. They say that the timing is almost impossible to gauge.
It is.
Why do you suppose that is? And what do you make out of these bots? Is there sort of a universal consciousness out there? I mean, we're treading here on bizarre ground, I suppose, but it does make you wonder, because the trends that the bots pick up are very, very accurate.
Oh, absolutely.
The timing is off.
Yeah, well, you know, I saw where you had named this the paranormal extreme, and so I feel really easy to answer those questions in the paranormal extreme. Yes, the bots are very interesting. Now, I associate it this way. This is how Larry Taylor has to figure this out, because, you know, I'm not the creator. I know the creator's not a man, and I'm a man, and I think a lot lower. But this is how I've kind of figured this out, or I've tried to. You know, I believe that there's two spirits that, you know, people on earth or mankind is subject to. One is one out there permeating the world is the Holy Spirit. It's out there,
yes.
You know. And the other one has to be the Antichrist spirit. So those are the two spirits. And so when you actually do something in the spirit body, more or less, you know, if it's not divinely initiated by the Creator, or it's not part of what He's doing, then if you do it, and you do it on your own, or you think you're using your own will, you're literally using the power of the Antichrist to operate that in demonic power. That's what it is, the Antichrist spirit and the demonic power. And I think that what they're picking up on, you know well as I do, Stewart, that there's been a lot of people over the years that have, you know, the Catholic Church and different ones, you know, have talked to spirits and people. You know, they have those that, you know, actually go, some priest, you know, Malachi Martin was one of those that literally go and expel demons, you know, exorcists they call them. And you know well as I do, and of course Russ Dizdar, and you know I've actually talked to those things and people and called them out, and that Antichrist spirit or demonic spirit or demonic force, any way you want to put it, I'm not too big on this cosmic consciousness. I think that you know, I think that what they're dealing with is those spirits. They're talking to them, and a lot of them are labeled a familiar spirit because it's familiar with you, and these things will tell you truthful things. They can actually predict things. They know a limited future, and they can tell you things, and they can show you things, but this is all from the demonic. That's why sometimes in there. They'd sow lies and deceit, deception, et cetera, et cetera. But on the other hand, the other force out there is the Holy Spirit. And let me tell you, and you know this well as I do, when you deal with the Holy Spirit, it don't talk like a man.
That's right.
And it don't worry about the things man worries about. It ain't, you know, it deals with the Creator, and it deals with things about heaven. And you know, it's a totally different makeup. The Holy Spirit is totally different makeup than what I call the Antichrist spirit. And for there to be a third spirit out there called this conscious mind or ether or whatever, I think it's baloney. I think it's the Holy Spirit of the Antichrist, and I can back those up, but I can't back up a cosmic consciousness type setup out there. I think it's literally the Antichrist spirit that they're dealing with, which will tell you true things, and you can get truth out of it, but it'll also lie to you and betray you.
Yeah. I got a question for you because I know you're familiar with the Native Americans. Do you remember the Encounters of the Fourth Kind, the movie?
Oh, my. Oh, absolutely. Matter of fact, when I actually got that movie, when I got that movie, Stewart, and that spirit spoke in that unknown tongue, I literally come out of my chair with my fist doubled up. The Holy Spirit in me knew that was warfare. That was real. That was not a movie. That was real.
Well, the question I got to ask, the owl played a very important role in that movie, if you recall. It would come and sit at the window. And these people were being analyzed by the psychiatrist. Now, in Native American folklore, what is the importance of the owl? Do you have any information on that?
Well, I do know and have followed that closely, and I've even had experiences with owls, very odd experiences, where they would literally seek me out and try to get within a foot of me and talk to me, without saying anything. And now, this is what's interesting, is my study in the Native American areas or legends of the owls. The owl's usually a symbolic of death a lot of times. And, matter of fact, if you hear an owl hooting, I don't know how many Native Americans told me somebody's going to die. If you're hearing one outside, somebody that you know is going to die, or there's a death spirit close. And so you could say that. But then again, there are cases, and I've looked at those really, really close. There are cases where people have had experiences with an owl, and when that owl had left them, it what I would call transformed or shape-shifted into a gray. So
really?
Yeah, absolutely. That's more. There's a number of cases of people that I've either read about it or I've talked to people that's had experiences such as that they were the owl that came to them or watched them, and it was really a familiar type situation with the owl. The owl literally turned into a gray as it walked away, and we know in the Indian legends of especially the Hopi and the Navajo type, the shapeshifters they called them, and of course a lot of the Indian tribes knew about shapeshifters. It was a lot of times the so-called witch doctors, whether it's Africa or Native American shamans or South American shamans, they could shapeshift. They could be, and Red Elk talked on this a lot, where a lot of times a coyote's not really a coyote, a wolf's not a wolf, owl's not an owl. He talked a lot of times about animals, certain birds, eagles, hawks, things like that were literally really not the animal you thought you were seeing. It was something else,
Okay, so an owl in the Native American folklore, though, usually it'd be kind of like an ill omen. Would that be correct? Pretty much.
Oh, that'd be pretty correct for most of them I've talked to. It was a lot of times it concerned death, and it could also be a warning, but it was not a good omen. Anytime an owl was around. Now, the hawks, usually red-tailed hawk or some of the hawks are a sign of a good omen, as they would call it. The owls were not.
Oh,
the
really?
owls were not. The owls were not welcome. I mean, really.
Huh. Well, that brings up, you mentioned the wolf, that ranch out there. What did they call that place? Where the portal opened up and a wolf came?
I saw some DVDs on that, some documentaries, Redstone or Red Gate or something like that. I don't remember exactly. I know exactly what you're talking about because it had portals there and things were coming out of them and going in them. And
yes.
yeah, I know what you're talking about.
Wow.
You know.
So we are probably in this world. We're in bizarro land here right now, but the Book of Enoch specifically talks about shapeshifters, that they took on many different forms, and they took on those forms and corrupted the early man, Genesis man. As L.A. was talking about, this thing's been going on. The strong delusion actually has been set up and running for thousands and thousands of years. But how would one even know, other than spiritual discernment? Now, your wife has had, was that kind of an owl man that she saw by her car one night? Or was that just I don't know what you would call it. Yeah, the bird man.
She says it's a bird man like the Egyptian. You know, in the Egyptian hieroglyphic or whatever, there's something that looks like a bird and a human with a bird head. It had wings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it was big. It was very big.
Yeah, and she could feel the wind.
I've got her right here if you want to ask her.
Yeah, maybe she could tell us about that.
Hello.
Hi, Darnette. How are you?
I'm good.
Well, good. We were talking about the Birdman, and you had an encounter with one. Could you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, he had the body of a man, very muscular, and then the head portion was like the old bird in the hieroglyphics in the Egyptians. You've seen those birds?
Yes.
It reminds you of that. And he had wings, but they were more of a leathery look. And fast. Oh, my God, it was fast. It was very, very, almost like it cloaked itself. When I saw it, I saw the shape, and then I saw the wings come over it, and it was gone. And it rocked my car, the wind from it. It was that heavy.
Wow.
It had a little Ford Edge at that time, and I wasn't really scared. I just was in shock. But it did scare my brother and his wife at that time. They were just, they wanted to leave.
Well, I guess I wouldn't blame them,
She was crying and taking on and saying, "Just get out of here," and I was like, I think you better pray. But it was, the Lord dealt with me as a watcher. And so who knows what forms they take, But that was something that was so quick that it just shocked me. And so, it happened very fast.
And did you see it actually take off?
No, it was standing beside the car, and then all of a sudden it was in front of the car. I went out to get something out of my car. I was getting ready to leave on a trip, and I was at my mother's house. I'd spent the night, and I was going to the car, and I started to get in the car, and I had just put my feet in the car, and all of a sudden the wind came, and it shut the door, and I looked up, and there he stood. And the Lord said, "Watch her." And it scared me. I mean, not really scared me, but it was kind of a shock. And I felt like it was a omen or something, and that's what my mother said. She's Native American, so she said, "Oh, that's a bad thing." And I told her about it, and she said, "Oh, that's bad." But it was huge.
How tall would you say it was?
Probably about 8 foot.
Wow.
And it was fast. It was big and super big. I thought of the giants and the old Aztec temple things. Is what I thought of. What did they call him? Quetzalcoatl or whatever it was.
Yeah,
that's what I thought about. Because he had the feet of a bird and the wings reminded me of a big bat. Not like big wings, but it was more leathery, more funny looking. It was almost like a sight looking through, I guess you'd call it a portal. And then the Lord dealt with me a watcher. And I went back in and warned my mother because she was coming out the door when the wind closed the door from its wings, and she started screaming. And I went back and told her what had happened. And she was, she took it to heart. My mama prayed, so she was really very paying attention at that time, and my brother too, and then his wife, of course. So it was a strange occurrence, to say the least.
Yeah. Larry and I were talking about owls. Would you have anything to add to that? We came to the conclusion they're probably an evil omen or something.
The owls. My mother says they are mother's a Native American Choctaw, and she says that in their history and their culture, that these are warnings of death, of a bad omen. If you hear them or you see them, not so much see them, but if you hear them crying out in the wilderness or around your house or something, she said it's a warning of a death. And she's also said that it's just a bad omen, to me. That's what she's told me. Because I asked her about a lot of things. And I asked her about the hawks, and she said, oh, those are okay, they're good, So anyway, that's all I know.
Well, should a person, a Christian person that has an encounter with an owl, should they rebuke it in the name of the Lord?
I think I would.
See what happens?
If it might be a warning, of something to come, something bad coming their way, I would heed it. Maybe it's the Lord warning you, through an owl. To me, that would be what I would say. My grandfather, he was a Christian man, but he also held to the old beliefs too. And in their native outlook, when they heard an owl screeching or hollering around and it was a bad omen to them, he would say, get your shirt tail and ring it. Those were the old things, the old sayings. And he would always grab his shirt tail and start ringing it to choke the owl down to make it shut up. Now, he was a prayer man, but he also believed in those things as warnings and things like that. And I've even heard him talk about it like that. So I understand what he meant, But they pray, but yet they still pay attention to the old things. And, and they took it as a warning, So, but that's all I've ever heard from any of them.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for the information. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Here's Larry back.
Okay. Boy, that's fascinating. Yeah, that's fascinating.
Yeah.
So, could that have been? So, would you classify that as a shape-shifting entity that you saw?
I'm not sure. I'm not totally sure she didn't see what it literally looked like in the natural, and we understand You know, there are the fallen ones. We really don't know what they look like. Of course,
That's
we've
right.
heard of Gilgamesh. We've heard of Nimrod. We've heard of those that biblically apparently or historically are legendary men that became more than a man, which, I think DNA probably had something to do with that. They become more than a man, but they're a hybrid. And then, so you don't know. You don't know if that was the original. We do know the fallen ones probably didn't stay in the perfected state because they were fallen. And that term fallen would, I believe, mean a change in appearance from the divine. In other words, when they fell, they probably changed their appearance changed, but they probably do have the ability to shapeshift. But what she saw, the watcher, as was identified to her, that possibly was what it looked like, and it reminded me so much of you remember the movie Stargate,
Yes.
That you got to look at some of that symbology, and construction of the headpieces and the body shapes and all these kind of things, and it was like when they were the human form, they were limited. But it seemed like something was done to them to enhance that human form, and then they were a little more than human. They were some type of hybrid, and I think we deal in that. I think we can wind up being confronted by things that are not only probably stronger and have abilities that we'd call supernatural, but they could have psychic abilities that are not turned off, and so they have abilities in the advantage, so to speak, other than what the angels and the Holy Spirit protects us with, but they have their defenses and offenses weapons themselves, and so it really what it does, Stewart, is it tells you while here on planet Earth we really are sheep led to the slaughter, so to speak, even I guess you could say not only spiritually but psychically. Even we're just sheep running around to the slaughter, and it's almost a miracle every time that one of us, you've had a really odd sensation of something shoving you and hurting you. You know what I'm saying?
Yes. Oh, yes.
And even Malachi Martin, he said something throwed him down and hurt him, and my friend that came up here to Huebner, from Louisiana, he was slung to the ground, thrown to the ground by something he couldn't see that was invisible. And so we probably, what my wife saw and recognized, and really, I believe the Lord showed her something that was there, a giant of some kind that had capabilities, whether it was a fallen one or a Nephilim, or a really actual Nephilim, or a hybrid of some kind, watcher. These things are out there, but they have the ability to cloak, I think, and be invisible. And, we know all about that. Even our own government has begun to work with invisibility cloaks and such technologically.
Yeah. I can remember one time that I was out in the studio, and I was probably working on a prophetic insider or something. I can't remember exactly what I was working on. And all of a sudden, I felt there was a presence there. And watching me, and it kind of spooks you a little bit, but I rebuked it, and in the name of the Lord, and it went away. Now, can a person remote view another person? Have they gotten that far? Maybe even in the Illuminati or the in that realm of military ops?
Oh, my, beyond that. They're beyond that because, Stewart, you've heard of a guy named Uri Geller. He was an Israeli. And he told a story how the CIA had tried to recruit him to psychically be an assassin. In other words, to go to people and kill them, certain people that they wanted him to kill, that he would go there psychically and assassinate those people. And even Ed Dames talks about, remember the terminology changing from remote viewing? They began to use, about the time Ed Dames got out of there, and I know you hadn't read his last book, but I did. they began to talk about remote influencing. And Ed talked about how that they had begun to bring in people with demonic activity and warlocks and those type of witches and et cetera was terms he used. And so really what Ed Dames and those that was with him in the military, that Black Project, they actually used the activities of I'm trying to think of his name. I know what I could see him I know what he looks like. Oh well, the father of remote viewing. What was his name? Do you remember?
I know who you're talking about, but I know
I'm talking about.
I know exactly. Yep.
But anyway, he actually, what they were doing remote viewing, they were literally leaving their bodies at will, and that's a dangerous thing. But they did it, and they went to places, but they were very limited in what they could see. Remember, they could only see a few things and draw a little bit of that. It wasn't really totally accurate, and it was almost like, in a way, the bots to a degree, or it's like Torah codes almost. What they were doing, you only had a few pieces of the puzzle. You never had the full picture, and you didn't even know what to ask particularly. But Ingo Swann, that's the guy's name, Ingo Swann.
Yep.
But about the time, to answer your question, Ed Dames says that they got into remote influencing, which literally meant, they could actually remote view into anybody, in the presence of anybody, period. Unless now in his last book he wrote, remember, he wrote in there, talked about there were people that had guardian angels, or there was angels about them that blocked your presence. In other words, you were blocked, or they could, and I'm sure that's true, what you said. The blood of Jesus is a weapon that we really a lot of times forget about and don't utilize, but it's so powerful, we don't even know really what it is. We just talk about it. The blood of Jesus.
I was going to say, when you come under one of these attacks, or if you sense it in your spirit, then definitely plead the blood of the Lord and rebuke, right?
That's right. That's right.
Wow.
Because the blood of Jesus literally is an offensive weapon. It can rebuke the enemy, and no matter how powerful that spirit is, or the demonic force, the blood of Jesus is literally the blood of Jesus, and you're using what's perfected already. Of course, we do it by faith. That's the only way we can utilize it is by faith. We don't have that power in ourselves, but we're using the power that has given to us as the earnest of our inheritance, I guess, is what I figure, and I use it when I need it.
Which it can be quite often if you come under or become a target.
Yeah, but I'll tell you what, that has happened to me a number of times, and do you know the only way I could stop them finally was the blood of Jesus and prayer and asking the Lord to send angels to block their way, and it stopped. And I've had it more than once. I've had it done a number of times, and I think sometimes the only reason I survived is because of the angelic help or the spiritual help from on high that's kept me,
Well, this is the thing. People, because it's invisible, I guess most people just assume that it doesn't exist, but the invisible is probably more real than we are in one sense of the word.
Yeah. Biblically, Stewart, what's invisible is what everything visible is constructed out of, is what the Bible says.
Yes. Yep. Well, we're running out of time. Thank you for coming on board. Really appreciate it. And we should get into ghosts one of these days and talk about ghosts and all the strange stuff that's out there. But thanks for coming on board.
Yep,
we'll see you. Yep. Take care, everybody, and we'll close her out. So we'll see you again.